Hey traders, Michael or Minifrost here. You're here for another episode of Common Sense Market Analysis. Today is Monday, November 10th, 2025. You're looking at a daily chart of the SPY or Spiders, which is the proxy for the S&P 500. What do we have on the docket today? Well, I'm pretty excited for today because we got a lot of stuff to cover. We got important news coming up. We got important numbers. We got the shorter term and longer term perspective of the spiders. We got lazy swing trader trades. We got inside the number trades. We got miscellaneous stuff to talk about. So today's definitely going to be a good one. So first, let's dive into the spiders, see where we are, what to expect later on this week, where the important numbers lie, and then we'll jump around here and there. But to start, we're up 1.56% today. We had a nice gap and go situation. So now we have a pretty decent sized gap right here at around 670.97. We'll get into that a little bit later because it's an important number. It's a target towards the downside, and it could be some support at least from an intraday perspective. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. We could just remove that for now. And look what we did today. We opened above the 20 period moving average. We came back down into it, didn't quite touch it, came up a little bit short, but did find some support at that area. And the reason why I'm bringing this up in the first place is because that was a super important number that I literally gave to you on Friday. And that number was 675. I'm going to put a screenshot on the board from the video of last Friday of when I was talking about this number, the 675. Now, it was a little bit of a different situation. So right now we're on a 15-minute time frame. This area right here was the close on Friday. And when I was talking about this number, I said that it could be utilized as overhead resistance towards the upside. All right, it's an important mathematical number. It's a big fat semi-round number as well. We know that the markets are attracted to those big fat round numbers. And we said that could be some overhead resistance. Now here's the thing. We gapped over that number. We gapped a decent amount over it. The open today was at 677.24. So despite the fact that we gapped over that number, and I say this time after time again, and if you still don't know what I'm talking about, I suggest you write this down on a sticky note. These mathematical numbers that I give you, they could be utilized as overhead resistance towards the upside, or on the flip side, they could be utilized as support on the way back down. I give you a ton of examples of that happening in Inside the Numbers. When price gets above an important overhead resistance number, sometimes, and not every time, but they like to come back into that number and utilize it as support on the way back down. And that pretty much happened right here. The absolute low for today was exactly 675.03. So we came up 3 pennies short. But at that point, you can't split hairs over pennies. I gave you this number on Friday. It was a support number that we had Inside the Numbers and the live room. If traders did take that trade, it was pretty much a free ride. Went to our targets towards the upside, we'll get into that a little bit later, but made a high of around 682, and that's something that we like to call a Whopper with cheese. A double Whopper with cheese, or a grand salami, whatever you want to call it. This was a nice frickin' trade. Real quick, before we get into some of the longer term stuff for the spiders, some numbers that you need to know later on this week, targets up above and towards the downside, I just want to quickly go over Inside the Numbers real quick, since we were pretty much on that topic already. This is the Zero Dark 30 notes. This is the morning game plan that's laid out to members well before the opening bell. As you can see, we had that first support zone on the board from 676 to 675. Okay, that was the support zone. And then even right here, I said, if we drop below 675, which is a significant number and exhibits pivot-ish qualities, then you got some numbers down below. We don't need to worry about that, but the point is that that was a significant number. And then some of the targets for overhead resistance towards the upside was at 679.70 to 680.75. And then a number up above at 682.05. As you can see, obviously that support zone was support. It did fight those numbers for quite some time, but we did manage to get above and started to close candles above, and then it was just a rocket ride from there on out. But the other thing that I want to mention was that the timing of this trade wasn't the best. And what I mean by that is that we came into this zone at around 11 o'clock. And then we started to eat time off the clock pretty much up until 12. And as we know, that's in the vicinity of lunchtime, aka torture time. You get less participation, more likely to eat some time off the clock, ping pong back and forth, which you see right here. So that's what I mean by it wasn't the best time to take that trade. The afternoon session, torture time, is pretty much a piece of variable risk that we normally try to eliminate. But at the end of the day, that number was extremely important, and we found support off of it. At the beginning of the morning, we were looking to short this overhead resistance zone up around 679.70 to 680.75. Never quite got there. We did come up short, but we were looking for that as an early morning trade. It was pretty much a dead morning. We had to exercise a lot of patience today. We wait for the things that we want. We don't try to create trades out of thin air. It just pretty much blows up right in front of your face every single time you try to do that. People try to do that because they're bored, they want action, they want to be in something, but that's not us. Why? Because we treat it as a business. There's always an opportunity around the corner. We just have to be patient and wait for what we want. So after coming up short of this zone right here, that was declared some unfinished business. So after we found some support, we made our way back up. You can see that those numbers were kind of important. Ate some time off the clock around here, around the first number. Came up a little bit short of the second number, and at this point, this is in the afternoon, just eating time off the clock, slowly grinding them up higher, so no one's trading this zone, especially after we came up short the first time, and then we finally got towards the other number at 682.05. That number did pose as some overhead resistance, and pretty much the moral of the story is the numbers work. If you exercise patience, you wait for what you want, you follow the system, you follow the game plan, then guess what? You get paid. You could pause the video, read the notes, and go back to the chart to double check the work. Alright, at 10:40. That's why it's so important to exercise patience. We weren't getting the things that we were looking for. It was a little bit frustrating watching turtles watch paint dry. But if you were patient and possibly waiting for that support number down below, then it worked out in your favor. Right here, I said this is a good support level, but it's also a trader's choice because we are approaching lunchtime, aka torture time. So again, pause the video, read the notes, double check the work, whatever you gotta do. If you're a trader who needs a game plan, the numbers, you want guidance in the morning session, and of course you want high probability trade setups, then you need to come check out Inside the Numbers and the live room. Okay, we have everything that you need to be a successful and profitable trader. We got stocks on the move. Unfortunately today we didn't have any. That's okay, we prefer quality rather than quantity. And then also, not to mention, we have a list of 13 different markets with support and resistance numbers. We'll get into that a little bit later because we had some nice trades today, all around the board, not just in the spiders. Alright, now here's the important stuff. What are some important destinations, targets, some important numbers towards the upside and downside for the spiders that you should probably know for this week? First, let's start with this. Above all the moving averages, the trend is your friend, and she's bullish. We all know that. We do have a newly formed gap. That number comes in at around 670.97. We'll make this blue. As I said before, that is an important number. It's a gap. It's around the vicinity of a big fat round number at 670. So we could really call this 671 to 670 as an area of some support, at least from an intraday perspective. You also have the 50-period moving average that can creep on up, getting to that area. But another thing that I want to mention is going back to that 675 number. If you were reading the notes, I said that that number has pivot-ish qualities. And I said that it's a very significant number. The market is obviously attracted to that number, as we saw today and previous days. So although we are above all the moving averages, we did manage to close substantially higher from my longer term pivot number. That number comes in at around 660. We'll go ahead and make this green. So although we do seem to be in a pretty bullish situation right now, being above all these important numbers, the moving averages, I wouldn't be totally surprised if we come back down and retest that 675. I'm not saying it has to be tomorrow, the next day, even this week, but sooner or later that number is going to be retested, and we could pretty much call that another one of our longer term pivot numbers at 675. Just for that sake, we'll go ahead and make this green as well. So I do think at some time we are going to have to go back to that number for some more retesting. It is in the vicinity of the 20-period moving average as well, so maybe another run towards home base, some normal garden variety behavior. But if we do start to get below and close candles below that 675, then we already know what the next destination is towards the downside. It's going to be this gap right here from Friday at 670.97. Remember, 671 to 670. Around that area. And obviously inside the numbers and the live room, we're going to have those exact numbers ready for members when that time comes. So don't you guys worry. But then on the flip side, because again, we have to be the umpires calling balls and strikes with an unbiased viewpoint of the market. I do have a number at 683.34. That happens to be this gap right here. That is declared some unfinished business. We did come up a little bit short last week and then again today, but that number, and maybe even a little spike of that number, it's also worth a mention that we do have another big fat semi-round number in and around that area at 685. So we could call this an area of overhead resistance. I'm expecting it to be a place where the market shouldn't just waltz right through. But capital BUT, if we do happen to blow right through, or at least start getting above it and closing candles above, because as we know, nothing in the market is 100% certain. It's the market's job to trick, trap, fool, and frustrate as many traders as possible the most amount of times as possible. So if we do start to get above that area, then we know that the next destination up above is going to be this gap right here, and then even testing the vicinity of the recent all-time high. The recent all-time high is at 689.70. Funny how that's 30 cents away from a big fat round number at 690. And to top it all off, we were up 0.33 cents that day. Again, those 369 numbers. If you know, you know. So that's what we got for the spiders, and I would certainly write these numbers down on a sticky note. How you doing? How about a little lazy swing trader intermission break? Today, members received a profit target alert number 2 for AEM, Agnico Eagle Mines Limited. I hope I'm saying that right. Members got the entry alert on the 27th of October right here at 154.38. Already locked in profit target number 1, and now locking in profit target number 2 at 167.50. That's a 6.40% gain in just a few weeks. We'll give that one a how do you like dem apples. How about EMAD, one of our lazy swing trader members, locking in $2,500 in AEM. Literally paid for his annual subscription in one trade. You want to know why? Because the numbers work. And there's absolutely no reason why this can't be you. We literally hand you everything on a silver platter. The entry targets, the profit targets, the stop loss levels, all sent directly to you, email and text in real time. You can see right here, SJM. That was the first trade that we had in August. Ever since that day, we've only had 3 losses out of 32 trades. I'll let you do the math on that one. That's within the last 3 months or so. And to top it all off, year to date, we have around an 89% win rate. I'm just going to give that one a how you doing, and the numbers work. That's the Lazy Swing Trader algo system. If you're interested, the link is in the description below. Just one thing that I wanted to touch up upon is that we have the government shutdown coming to the end. Hopefully, that's what they say. Honestly, at this point, this has been going on for so long. It's actually the longest government shutdown in history. So at this point, it's just noise in my ear. It's about damn time already that they started this thing back up. But another thing that I wanted to show you is about flight delays. Okay, the government shutdown did have a pretty prominent effect on air travel. It's stated right here, with Congress deadlocked, about 13,000 controllers and 50,000 TSA agents are working without pay. And they also had a shortage of 3,000 air traffic controllers. And I'm sure a lot of these people weren't even working if they ain't getting paid. Tens of thousand delays affecting 3.2 million passengers. And guess what? Despite all of that going on, the Lazy Swing Trader system picked up a trade in United Airlines, UAL, and we already locked in our second profit target, locking in a 5.25% gain. And I'm literally reading the article right now. It says, of the 4 major airlines analyzed, Southwest, United, American, and Delta are the ones that are being the most affected right now. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because all of that doesn't matter. Why? Because all charts act and react the same way. All right, if this area right here is support, which it was in a full stack type of situation, I'm going to take this trade 9 out of 10 times. I don't care what the talking heads on TV are talking about, because all charts act and react the same way. Also, that article wasn't new news, okay? This has been going on for quite some time now. So I wouldn't think it would have a huge detrimental impact to these swing trades, specifically UAL. This just goes to show you how good the system truly is. All right, I just want to quickly go over back to the spiders because I need to tell you guys this one thing. We do have a downwards trend line that was acting as overhead resistance. You can see right here, came up short right here, but did hit it today actually right here, and now we're closing candles above it. So with that said, staying above that trend line is the bull case scenario on top of staying above those important numbers / pivot numbers I mentioned. And as we're above it right now, the market can come back down into it and possibly use it as support on the way back down. But if we get below it and start to close candles below, then we would start to think maybe the market isn't as strong as what we previously thought it to be and might go down to retest those important numbers, specifically that pivot number at 675. Maybe even a spike the low and rip it back up. Possibly. We'll get to that when that time comes, but I just wanted to quickly go over this because I do think it is important. All right, let's take a quick trip around the world and start with my #1 favorite market leading indicator, CAMP IWM. We're up 1% today, $2.42. As you can see, we had a nice gap up higher today, gapping right around our number at 244.30, a little bit higher, approaching that 20 period moving average. We came up short of that number that happened to be the midpoint between our two numbers at 244.30 to 247, and look where we closed the tape today. The close today is 244.03, so below this important number. If we do continue to close candles below that number and can't seem to recapture the 20 period moving average or even make its way back above that 247.18 number, then we'll get some more testing of this 50 period moving average and the unfinished business down below this gap right here at 241.61. We're going to have IWM numbers ready for Inside the Numbers and live room members. One more thing that I want to throw at you guys is a downwards trend line from this high right here to the high on the 29th of October. Coming up towards that trend line will be some overhead resistance. So we'll certainly keep an eye on that later on this week. And we'll also see if we're strong enough to get back above all the moving averages and or that trend line and start to use it as support on the way back down. Just like the transportation department, using that trend line as support on the way back down. Last week, we got above it and then used it as support. And now we're approaching in the vicinity of this overhead resistance zone that I gave to you guys last week. Okay, I'm expecting this to be a place where the market shouldn't just waltz right through. This is an important overhead resistance area. The back end number happens to be a big fat semi-round number at 16,500. We did happen to come up a little bit short of that front end number, so I wouldn't be totally surprised if we spike through it a little, maybe go ahead and fill this gap right here. That's going to be some unfinished business towards the upside, but we'll see if this zone holds true and does provide a little overhead resistance. On the flip side, going back down, we can make another visit of that trend line. That trend line does happen to coincide right with the most recent breakup candle low. There's actually a breakup candle low right here and one right here, so that can be some support on the way back down. But I'll tell you this, if we do manage to get below and close candles below that number and trend line, pretty much coinciding right with each other, then the next destination down below is going to be right back at the pivot in green. 15,650, right where a majority of the moving averages are, the 20, 50, and 100. We'll certainly keep our eyes out for the transportation department. What about the Q people? We're up 2.21% today. Nice gap and go situation. Pretty much same deal as the spiders. We gapped over that 20 period moving average, came back into it and used it as support. Came up a little bit short, but that area was support. And then we even closed above this breakdown candle high. That is important. If we stay above that and close candles above, then we're going to retest these highs right here and possibly even push on higher towards this gap right here. Again, that is a place that should be some bona fide overhead resistance. How about our first support number for the Q people at 617.30? Pretty much nailing low of day on the frickin' dot. How you doing? What about XLF, the financials? We're up 0.36%, funny how that works. And as you can see, that trend line is still in play, utilizing it as overhead resistance. Now, we did close below that trend line today. We did poke our heads above just a touch, but did ultimately come back down and close below it. Doesn't mean the same thing will happen tomorrow. Anything can really happen in this stage of the game. We could either continue to use it as overhead resistance, come back down, retest the most recent breakup candle low, or we can start to push on through the trend line, close candles above it, and then start to utilize it as support on the way back down. So I just realized I didn't have the moving averages on the board. That's okay, let's take a quick look. As you can see, we did come up a little bit short of that 50 period moving average. So if we do get back above that trend line, even close candles above it, start to utilize it as support on the way back down, then that's going to be the next destination. But at least a spike of it, possibly even getting to this breakdown candle high. That's the next destination for XLF, if we get above that trend line. Last but not least, we got SMH shaking my head, the semiconductors. Smash mouth. We're up 3.07% today. Very common theme of opening above the 20 period moving average, coming back down into it around the vicinity of it, utilizing it as support, and then closing candles above it. We've seen that a few times all across the board. So we stopped pretty much right at this recent breakdown candle high. As you can see, that was overhead resistance. So if we do manage to get above that number and close candles above, then the next destination is going to be some unfinished business right at 36610. As you can see right here, we did come up a little bit short, making it some unfinished business towards the upside. But this area should be some overhead resistance and a place where the market shouldn't just waltz right through. If we do, which is always a possibility, nothing in the market is 100% certain, and we'll start to test these highs right here, even around the vicinity of the recent all-time high. And don't worry, we're going to have SMH numbers ready for Inside the Numbers and live room members. On the flip side, we do have this gap down below that's at 348.12. If we continue to kind of stall out at this area, the recent breakdown candle high, then we could easily come back down, go back for a test of the 20 period moving average, and even going as far as completing this gap right here from Friday. As you can see, that gap is very important. The market showed you that it was important multiple times. She showed you it was important right here, again right here, came up short right here, and then we closed right at it. So that place is certainly magnetic for the market. Okay, the market knows about that number. So it could potentially be some support, at least from an intraday perspective, or possibly even a little spike through, and we're going to have those numbers ready. Have I told you guys how much I appreciate each and every single one of you? Without you guys, these videos or MSF would not be possible. That is true and accurate information. Put it on a sticky note. If you made any money today within Inside the Numbers or the Lazy Swing Trader, please leave a comment down below and help a brother out. I'm not the brother. The other traders are the brothers. Let them know if you're making money using the numbers so that they can too. With that said, we're pulling the ripcord for today. I'm Mini Frost. Once again, thank you all so much for tuning in for another episode of Common Sense Market Analysis. We'll be back ready to go in uniform for Turnaround Tuesday, and of course the video later that night. I hope each and every single one of you has a great rest of your day. Stay safe and take care now, folks.